Okay, so this is the third and final installment in my series that I think we should probably be calling Jenn is possibly the worst mother in the entire world. So in this video, I've pulled clips from the video interview that Jenn did and also from the derivative use interview. And basically, they're clips that show what sort of mother Jenn truly is. If you've watched the first two videos, and I will link them below in the description, then right now we are scraping the bottom of the barrel. I think most people will agree that it's really hard to find anything positive to say about Jenn as a mother. Now, before I jump into this video, I'll just mention that I have finally received the FOIA request stuff from the State Attorney's Office. So tomorrow I will be starting to look at the unredacted audios and videos that I have received, and just sharing my thoughts on those. I actually didn't. I think I might have done one of Jenn's interviews early on when this case first started, or when all the interviews first started coming out. But I haven't really done a deep dive into interviews where I've just gone from start to finish. So I'm keen to do that with these newly released unredacted versions. I think there's probably going to be some interesting things to discuss, perhaps. So on that note, let's get back to this video and see if we can find anything in these two interviews that might redeem Jenn in any way whatsoever. I'm doubtful, but let's look anyway.
I don't like her taking her meds without somebody visually watching her, because I don't want her to accidentally grab the wrong pill. She's comfortable enough to grab the pill while but I'm like, no, I need to watch you take them.
Has there ever been an issue with that in the past, if you took too many or took the wrong thing? Or just like a thought in your mind?
No, just a thought in my mind, just me being hypervigilant. I want to physically watch her take her meds and watch her grab two, take them. I don't ever want there to be an accident of she took too many, or she took, my biggest fear is that she would take Adderall by accident, her daytime meds.
Yeah.
I frequently get this sense of deja vu when I'm listening to Jenn's interviews, because she often repeats herself verbatim. I actually spoke about that particular comment in, I think, yesterday's video, so I'm not going to go in depth, but it just really bugs me when she claims to be hypervigilant. This woman was never hypervigilant about anything to do with Maddie.
11 o'clock is past her bedtime. She needs to go to sleep. So I sent them upstairs.
That's probably the one time that she's actually acknowledged the fact that being 11 o'clock at night, that Maddie did actually need to go to bed and need to go to sleep. But how ironic is it that she's saying that? She's saying, you know, it was past her bedtime, she needed to go to sleep, so I sent them upstairs. Knowing full well that Stefan wouldn't sleep. He's someone who does not sleep at night and is constantly waking up, or he'll be up on the computer or whatever, meaning that she had to have known Maddie would not have got a good night's sleep going upstairs with with Stefan. Like, the woman is just, she does my head in, honestly. And then, you know, all this, but her main concern was about her getting a good night's sleep. Yeah, it was past Maddie's bedtime. Maddie needed a good night's sleep, but I'll just send her upstairs with Stefan where she's not going to get a good night's sleep anyway.
Her phone was on her dresser. When I found it, I was like, oh my god, she's got her phone again. That's great. I brought it with me to the school because I was just going to yell at her and then just hand it to her so she could have something to do on our way home.
Every time I hear her talking about yelling at Maddie for forgetting her phone, it makes my blood boil. She's already said in other interviews, oh, Maddie has ADHD, she forgets things. So let's say that Maddie had actually forgotten her phone, and we know that's actually not what the situation was. But if Maddie had actually forgotten her phone, why yell at her for it? It's only just reinforcing this idea that Jen has that Maddie is abnormal because she has ADHD. That she is a lesser person because she has ADHD. It just makes me so mad when people have a lack of understanding and a lack of empathy for their children because of their ADHD. It makes me mad when anyone has a lack of empathy or understanding for anyone with ADHD or autism spectrum disorder, or, anything that sets them apart from others. They shouldn't be blamed for being different.
I stayed up late. I think I called Fox 35. What else did I do? I think I had to eventually eat and take my medication. He told me he was going to go out cruising that night to go look for her. And I said, I even questioned that. I asked him, are you sure it's a good idea? You should probably sit tight. Let's just wait to see if she comes home.
Are you sure it's a good idea to go out searching for my missing daughter? We should just sit around at home, get high, and wait to see if she comes home. Said no mother ever, except for Jenn Soto. This particular interview, I can see why the detectives completely lost their shiz with this woman. Because I would have been losing the plot after 5 minutes in a room with her. And yet this was like a 2-hour, nearly 3-hour interview. And she's saying crap like that. Well, so far, she's still not winning in the parent stakes.
And he said he was going to take a drive out. I had completely forgotten about him wanting to take the drive, or that he actually did it. And it wasn't confirmed to me until the following day, where agents came to the house and we sat in the car for a good amount of time, and I noticed the chair was adjusted. And I said, did you drive my car? And he said, yeah, remember I said I was going out last night.
Can you tell you where he looked?
I think he said up and down 192, and I said, why there? And he's like, I don't know, I'm just looking. I was just trying to look anywhere. And I'm just like, okay.
Again, deja vu in terms of the whole story of, oh, I only realised that he'd gone out because I sat in the car and the seat was moved. But, wouldn't you, like I said yesterday, wouldn't it be at the forefront of your mind that, oh, he said he was going to go back out and have a look. So the moment you wake up, you'd be saying, did you go? Where did you go? Did you see anything? But no, she apparently completely forgot it completely, no idea. And then wants to know, why would you go searching in that area? Well, heck, if your daughter was missing, if a child was missing, you're not going to stop. You're not just going to go, I'm just going to search, I'm going to walk around the block and see if she's hanging out anywhere around the block. You are going to search everywhere, even if it seems like a remote possibility. Even if you think, well, okay, it's probably not likely, but I'm going to search because I want to find her. You would be so desperate to find your child that you wouldn't criticise someone for searching in an area that you think isn't the right area. You would just be grateful that they have gone out. Honestly, I think listening to her say these things confirms for me that she's just full of crap. And she wasn't concerned because she knew Maddie wasn't coming home. She knew what Stearns had done. And she probably had a fair idea of where Maddie was.
When you guys let us know we couldn't come back, and I called his dad, or we called his dad, I started saying to him, like, I think they're focusing in on you. Like, we need to call your dad, and I think we need to get you a lawyer. I feel like they're focusing on the wrong person. And he kept saying the same thing. He kept repeating what I was repeating. That they're focusing on the wrong person. They're wasting time there.
Now, I know that the detective called her out on this anyway. But honestly, you would only need a quarter of a brain cell to realise that they can't take someone's car without a warrant. They can't lock up your apartment without a warrant or take someone's phone without due cause. Meaning that there had to have been a reason that they were looking at him. And yet she doesn't consider that at all. Her concern is that she needs to get him a lawyer because they're looking at the wrong person. Why aren't you asking him, why are they looking at you? What's on your phone that's making them want to look at you? What have you done that's making them want to look at you? And yet, no, her concern's not about that at all. She's forgotten about Maddie. Her concern is with Stefan. She wants to make sure he's got a lawyer. That's not what you would expect from a parent. You would be questioning. I mean, let's break it down into simple facts. She supposedly saw Maddie Sunday night. We don't know. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. She didn't see Maddie Monday morning. Supposedly, Stearns took Maddie and dropped her off at school. And yet Maddie never made it to school. And now, Stearns' phone has been taken, his car has been seized, the apartment is being locked down. They've been questioned multiple times. She's been given questions about Stearns. Questions which should make you start to think there's something serious going on here. And yet, she can't put it all together and go, oh my gosh, he's done something to my daughter. Wouldn't you be screaming like, did you even drop her off? What did you do with her? You were the last person to see her. Why is she missing and why are they looking at you? Tell me the truth. Not Jen.
What is, like, your kind of day-to-day with her?
I would have said a normal relationship. I asked, she would tell me. I didn't think she was hiding anything from me. I didn't think she was lying to me about anything, but obviously she had secrets.
I mean, the hindsight, all the stuff you found out over the past couple of days, we're taking that out of the picture. Your relationship with her.
Okay.
Like, not looking back saying, okay, I was being lied to. Like, up until you found out some things that you've been told, you guys had an open communication relationship. You talk about
everything.
Life.
Yeah. If anything, she was a little bit more open with Stefan because she told him about a boy she had a crush on.
Now, she was damn calm during that conversation. First of all, let's acknowledge that she was blaming Maddie for what was going on between Maddie and Stearns, and basically putting it on Maddie for being a liar and for not telling her what was going on. not thinking about what Maddie could have gone through, not blaming Stearns for what he was doing to Maddie. And she's so calm about it all. She knows what he's been doing. She's seen the photos. And she's angry with Maddie, not with Stearns. And she's disappointed because Maddie lied to her. That would be the furthest thing from my mind at that point in time. I would expect most parents to be utterly devastated to realise that that had been going on and that they had no clue, and that their child, who had a close relationship, was so ashamed that they didn't speak to them about it. But no, she doesn't reflect back on herself and think, wow, you know, I'm devastated that my child's gone through this and I didn't know and I couldn't be there for her. No, her reflection is that Maddie has lied to her. Maddie is a bad child because she kept this secret from her. Again, it's victim blaming. And it's the victim's own mother who is doing it. She should be in tears over the fact that this was going on and she had no idea. She should be blaming herself for not knowing it was going on. But no, she's blaming Maddie.
He seemed happy for her.
Okay.
He's like, yeah, did you hear this? This is super cute. And I was like, oh. I hadn't. She hadn't told me. And I wondered, I'm like, why didn't she tell me? Why did she tell him and not me? Like, I want to know who she's got a crush on. But maybe it's because I've told her she had a rule. She wasn't allowed to date for a few years.
Okay.
Until, like, I think I had said 16 or something like that. But I didn't want her dating.
The way she said hadn't, when she said Maddie hadn't told her, that was so loaded. There was venom in it. She was so annoyed with Maddie because Maddie didn't tell her she had a crush on a boy. Well, sorry, Jen, but you sound like a really sucky mother. That's probably why Maddie didn't tell you that she had a crush on a boy. I actually don't believe her with this whole comment of, maybe she didn't tell me because I told her she wasn't allowed to date till she was older. I think I said 16. That to me sounds like she's made it up on the spot. She's trying to save face there. And the fact that she says, I think I told her 16, says to me that that rule never existed. Because if that rule existed, you would know exactly what that rule was. Because there would have been discussions over it with your child. She's a liar. She's trying to save face. She's trying to maybe sound like a responsible parent. But what she's saying just does not ring true.
I had a rule. She wasn't allowed to sleep in his bedroom at all. Like, no sleepovers, no nothing. For a very long time. For years.
Since we're pausing,
yeah.
What brought that on? Was that like a request of his, like, can we sleep in the same bed, request of hers, or you just saying?
Me being super paranoid, not to trust anyone. For the longest life, even though he treated her well, I still looked at him on, like side-eye, like making sure, like, is that normal? Is this, okay, that looks normal, okay. I wanted to make sure that nothing was happening and that I was missing something, but I was.
Now, seriously, the fact that you have to question if something looks normal means that it probably doesn't look normal. She's saying things like that she's super paranoid. Well, clearly she wasn't, because this was going on for at least 4 years, and I am going to suggest that it went on from the first time that he had access to Maddie. She talks about side-eyeing him. And yet she was allowing Maddie and him to sleep upstairs unsupervised. She contradicts herself so often, and she shows no emotion. At this point in time, we are discussing the fact that your daughter has been SA'd by your former partner for at least 4 years. You've been shown the photos. Like, there is conclusive evidence, and yet you're so cold and just going on about, well, I've had a rule for so many years. Well, first of all, no one has a rule like that for so many years unless they have a good cause to do so, which I know the detective said that, but he's right. There is nothing here that you would expect to come out of the mouth of a decent parent.
But up until June, together all the time. So we were always, she would sleep in the middle, I would sleep on this side, he would sleep on the other side. It wasn't until June that he got his own bedroom and I sent him upstairs. That's where the requests for sleepover started.
Okay.
And I kept telling her no. I'm not comfortable with that. But eventually at some point, like we really want to watch, I forgot what movie it was. They really wanted to watch something and I was really tired. And I said, okay, fine. Go ahead, but this can't happen often. And yeah, I allowed her to go upstairs and sleep with him. But honestly, I think I can count on one hand how many times that's happened, and it hasn't been many times that I've allowed her to have a supper party with him, to be alone in a bed with him. I'm usually around all the time.
The woman is utterly spineless. As a parent, it is your role to set boundaries, and allowing your daughter to sleep upstairs with a grown-ass man because they nagged at you so much that you got sick of it is not setting boundaries. Now, can we also acknowledge here that she's saying that she allowed it because she was tired? Well, if she was tired and she wasn't even working, Maddie was going to school every day. You didn't think about whether or not it might be better for her to also get an early night so she could get up early and head to school the next day refreshed. And just calling them sleepovers, it just makes me feel so nauseated. This loses about 1 billion points in the parents' front as far as I'm concerned. No decent parent would ever consider this sort of thing.
Up until 2 weeks ago, I was pretty much at home all the time living on disability. If I wasn't at home, I was substitute teaching, but I was substitute teaching primarily at her school or at the school close by, but I'd make sure I'd get out around the same time and I'd get out in time to pick her up and take her. So she was with me pretty much all the time if she wasn't at school.
Okay, so first of all, as far as I'm concerned, her saying that she was there the whole time is essentially making her culpable, because we know the things that were going on. And given that things were occurring in Maddie's fake bedroom, that's not a private place. How could Jen be oblivious to things going on in that room? It's not like there were closed doors there. So, that to me is an admission of culpability. But I just want to point out something else. So, a large part of the whole backstory for why Stefan was there, why Stefan was taking Maddie to school, all that stuff, was Jenn saying, and why Jenn didn't go to Maddie's birthday, was Jenn saying, I have this new job and my hours don't fit in around being a mother, essentially. You know, she was saying, well, my hours meant that I wasn't going to be able to see Maddie because I was working late nights. So Maddie would have had to have stayed with her grandmother rather than be at home on her own. But I was selfish and I wanted to be able to see her, so I asked Stefan to come and help me with that. Same again with Maddie's birthday. I couldn't go to Maddie's birthday because I had to work. I was so selfish that I didn't want to change my work hours so I could go to Maddie's important 13th birthday. So we have this narrative of her basically working hours that meant that she couldn't be there for Maddie when she should have been there for Maddie. Working hours that were nighttime, which is when Maddie's home from school, as opposed to hours that were while Maddie was at school. Here, she's basically said that the appeal of doing the substitute teaching was that it meant that her hours fitted in around Maddie's schedule, and she made sure that she was finished in time to collect Maddie from school. Well, okay, so previously, she made sure that her work fitted in around Maddie's schedule so she could pick Maddie up from school and be there for Maddie after school. And now she's taken on this job where apparently she's working during the hours when Maddie would actually not be at school. I call BS on the whole, oh, I chose my hours with the teaching so that I could be home for Maddie. Complete utter BS. It just happened to fit in that way. Clearly, her priorities aren't about being home for her daughter. And, you know, I think about people I know, single mothers. If you're on a disability, she's lived on a disability pension for God knows how many years. She's not had a job. Why was it that she suddenly needed this job? Is it because Stefan wasn't there and she suddenly didn't have that extra bit of money coming in from Stefan? But then it's 2 months since he'd moved out. So was she that desperate that she was prepared to take on a job that wasn't going to fit in around Maddie's schedule? Because to me that sounds really, really selfish. I can understand if you are a single parent and you have no other income coming in and you just have to take any job you can. Then you might need to work nights and make arrangements for your child. She didn't have to accept this job. Not only that, working as a concierge in a hotel, if you are accepting that job and you were halfway decent as a mother, wouldn't you turn around and say, look, I am really keen to do this job. I'm super enthusiastic. I want to do all the training. But I have a 12-year-old daughter who I also need to be there for because I'm a single parent. But no, that didn't come into consideration for Jen at all.
But I'm not going to believe it until I have her body.
On the surface, you could believe or you could almost believe that is actually her in distress and not wishing to believe that her daughter is dead. But can we talk about the lead up to this? Right from the get-go, she messed up so many times and referred to Maddie in the past tense. Not only that, when she was confronted with the photos of Stearns putting Maddie's backpack in the dumpster and asked what it was, and when she finally was told that's Maddie's backpack, she straight away jumped to, we are looking for a body. She was quite willing for her very first thought to be, we are looking for a body, not a, what the heck has he done? So when she's putting this act on here, that's what I believe it is. It is nothing more than an act.
So there are things, and the reason I say these things, and again, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but the reason I say these things is there's been a lot of things you've said, and a lot of things I've kind of researched between the Fox 35 story, between your initial statement to the police. A lot of things have changed. The initial statement to the police was you watched her get dressed, you watched her leave, you knew exactly what she was wearing.
Can I tell you
Absolutely.
my thought process on that, or where I came from with that? I was handed this form, and I'm like, where do I start? What do I write? And somebody said, tell them what you saw. And so I started with I saw, and then I wrote out what I wrote out. But it wasn't until later I was like, wait, I didn't see her. I assumed that I saw her. I assumed that I heard her, but I didn't. In reality, I didn't see her. I only saw him, and I heard something in the kitchen, but I don't know who that was.
He's essentially backed her into a corner there. And what she comes out with is the biggest load of drivel that I've ever heard. Even if someone did hand you a bit of paper and say, write what you saw, then they're not asking you to make things up. Let's say for a moment that she actually did see Maddie on Sunday night. Wouldn't that be what you would start with if you were going to write, I saw? I saw my daughter last on Saturday night. I didn't get out of bed Monday morning because I was too lazy to do so. So I don't know if she got ready for school and left the house dressed and ready for school. But no, she comes up with this BS about I saw her getting dressed. I saw her getting ready for school. You don't imagine that you see something like that. All this is her having been backed into a corner, having been confronted for lying, and instead of saying, yeah, okay, I lied, I didn't want it to sound bad because I didn't get out of bed, or whatever the reason was for her lying, which I think we all have our own theories, and it's not about her being too lazy to get out of bed. Instead of basically saying, okay, you've got me, she comes up with a new lie, and it is so blatantly a lie. This woman is only concerned with protecting her own ass. She's not concerned with telling the truth to get justice for her daughter, or telling the truth so that her daughter can be brought home and laid to rest.
People having lawyers is their constitutional right. That is a thing that everybody is afforded. But for somebody who's going through what you are going through, to offer him a lawyer leads me to believe that there may have been a conversation, there may have been knowledge, or there may have been some inclination that you had, whether it be his involvement, her location, or something to where in your mind there's guilt.
I promise you, like.
Because you offering him a lawyer is very weird.
I know. That was still me under the assumption that I think at one point you guys interviewed me, and when you guys showed me the picture of her, I believed the sexual stuff, but I didn't want to believe that he had done anything evil to her. I'm like, no, what if he did this stuff fine, but what if she's still missing out there? What if somebody took her? I still wanted to believe I believed him. I believed his whole story. So I was just like, I kept repeating that part. I'm just like, what if she did get dropped off? What if she got abducted? What if she's missing? But that was me assuming that you guys had the wrong guy. I wanted to think he was a good guy still, but clearly he's not. After everything you guys have told me and have shown me, I know he's the worst person on this face of the earth.
You know
right
that now. We know he's a piece of shit now.
You know.
But you didn't know that then.
I still have no words over that comment. I believe the S stuff, but I didn't want to believe that he did anything evil. That says it all. That right there shows you what kind of a parent she was. She doesn't deserve to be called a mother or a parent, because she had no concern for her child. And like I said in yesterday's video, even if you just believed that he did the S stuff, but you didn't think that he had unalived your daughter, why the heck would you get him a lawyer? Why the heck would you be phoning people, phoning your ex-husband, phoning his father, saying, we need to get Stefan a lawyer? Because, oh my gosh, I've just seen these photos and he did these horrible things to my daughter. Straight away, that just wipes her completely out of the running for a little scummy bit of lint on the foot of a mother, even. It's mind-boggling.
Okay. When you guys slept in the same bed together, in the middle, did you ever wake up and find them cuddling? Did you ever wake up and find them closer than you thought they should be?
They would snuggle, yeah.
Okay.
But we all snuggle. I didn't think that was abnormal.
So if you guys are sleeping in the same bed and she's in the center, you've woken up and they're snuggling, they're under the same blanket, they're not under the same blanket?
No.
But just like...
She's got her own blanket.
Spooning for what? What is snuggling to you? Because to me, snuggling, spooning. Big spoon, little spoon.
He would lay down like this and she would be right here in the nook.
Okay.
Let's say, hypothetically, you live in a house with so many other people that you only have one room for your entire family to sleep in. And it's a small room. It's only a master bedroom like Jenn's. You have one bed for 3 people to sleep in. There's no sofas, there's no other beds anywhere available in the house. So you, your daughter, and your ex-boyfriend need to share that bed. Newsflash, you should be putting yourself between him and her. He shouldn't even brush the side of her arm with his clothes. There should be no physical connection in that bed. Maddie should have been on the other side of Jenn. Even that is deplorable in my opinion. Nobody's asked this question, and I guess because it is one of those questions that is so hard to think about. But when Jenn and Stefan were actually in a relationship and they were active, where was Maddie? Because Jenn claims that Maddie has always slept with her. And that thought does my head in. Did Maddie witness things that a young child should not have had to have witnessed? Was that just helping to normalise that behaviour for a 7-8-year-old? Well, okay, he does it with mummy, so the fact that he wants to do it with me must just be the way it works. There's nothing here in what Jenn is saying that's okay. For her to be so calmly talking about Maddie sleeping in the nook as if she's describing a fruit tree outside the window that's got 3 apples hanging off one branch. There's no emotional connection there whatsoever. She's just describing something very matter-of-fact that's apparently okay for her. Once again, epic fail.
How do you guys sleep? Do you guys sleep clothed, unclothed? I sleep clothed.
Yeah.
Shirt, pants, pajama sets.
Yes.
Everybody.
I sleep in like my everyday clothes.
Okay.
On pajamas or baggy t-shirts and shorts.
Okay.
And Stefan would sleep with his t-shirt or boxers, sometimes with his pants on. But he didn't have pajamas.
Okay. So they would snuggle, sometimes him being in his boxers. You would wake up and she'd be in the nook of his arm, essentially in a cuddling position. And you never found that weird?
No.
Honestly, the self-restraint of this detective is just phenomenal, isn't it? He's got kids of his own, and yet he's managing to calmly question Jenn when she's talking about Stefan sleeping in a bed with Maddie, right next to Maddie, wearing only boxer shorts and having her in the nook of his arm. And Jenn's okay with that. And she knows it's wrong. We can barely hear her say yes. Because she knows it's wrong. She knows it's unacceptable. And yet she still allowed it. Still not finding anything here that is redeeming for her.
Okay.
Fuck you want, but I don't know anything. He's never mentioned anything. I've never seen any signs. I tried watching her like a hawk. I thought I was doing a good job, but I wasn't. I was oblivious to everything. 4 years?
Minimum. That's just how that far back the clown goes. I find it hard to believe for me that you were so worried about how many pills she took at night, but not where she slept or what relationship she was.
Now, if you don't read the comments in my videos, then you may have missed an utterly brilliant comment. I think it was in yesterday's or the previous video in this series, and I can't remember who it was that said it, but the comment with regards to her saying she watched Maddie like a hawk, and the response from one of my brilliant subscribers was, no, she watched Maddie like an ostrich with its head in the sand. That is so spot on. I don't think I could come up with a better description myself. That is exactly what it was. She never paid any attention to what was going on between Maddie and Stefan. This went on for, as he said, a minimum of 4 years. I find it hard to believe given that we know that even as a 19, 20-year-old, he was going out with a 14-year-old. So I find it hard to believe that this didn't actually begin from the first day that he had access to Maddie. And yet Jenn is supposedly oblivious to the whole thing.
His interest in her.
I thought we were all safe. I thought because in that he hadn't shown me anything so far, like everything seems fine. Like he seemed like he treated her like
he treats you.
I think this is a statement that has been overlooked, and it's actually quite significant. She said that she'd been watching and he hadn't showed her anything so far. Well, there's one of two things that she is saying there. Either she thinks she was keeping an eye on things because she was expecting this behaviour to occur. When you say he hasn't shown me anything so far, that implies that you're expecting there to be a time when he does actually show you this thing. Either that, or she's just outright lying about having kept an eye on things, and lying about having not seen anything that would give her any clues. And the so far is leakage, meaning that she's still saying she knew it was going on, and she's essentially saying, well, had I not been paying attention, maybe I wouldn't have seen anything so far. Either way, she's admitting that either she was aware of it and she's just outright lying here, or I haven't seen anything so far, meaning, yeah, I had a pretty strong idea that he was going to do this to Maddie, but I stuck my head in the sand and I didn't pay any attention, so I didn't see it.
For the purpose of this conversation, I need you to believe it because I need you to figure it out. I need you to tell me what you think happened to her.
I think he killed her that night.
How?
I don't know. Could it probably be possible that he drugged her? Could he have choked her? I just don't know how you kill someone and don't leave a mess or don't leave evidence, or I mean, was there a mess? Was there evidence? I haven't gone upstairs. I don't know what you guys I barely went into the house today, so I don't know what.
I need to know what you think happened.
I'm sorry, but a normal parent, if their child was missing and they're being questioned by detectives, what do you think happened to your child? And they've already been given an indication that their child is deceased. I would expect a normal parent to just go to pieces. I would expect them to be struggling to get even one word out, to become so distraught that they cannot speak. Not Jenn. No, she's able to speculate that, she thinks he must have either drugged her or strangled her. She's putting on that effect with her voice, which makes it sound like she's supposedly upset. But you can tell the fluency there. She's not struggling with her emotions. She's not trying to stifle sobs. She's just putting on that voice because she knows that she's expected to act distressed at this point in time. But she doesn't quite know exactly how that's meant to look. What mother is going to actually be able to get the words out to speculate while their child is still missing, even to speculate what actually occurred in terms of how their child was ended? That's not natural. It's so not natural. And I've said this in another video, claiming that she's not been upstairs. She wouldn't know if, first of all, saying, well, there's no sign of what happened, so it must have been those things. And then catching herself and saying, well, there wasn't, was there? You didn't see any sign of anything, because I've not been upstairs. I think that's a major admission there. She knows there's no sign of anything upstairs. Maybe she even helped Stefan clean up. Who knows? As someone pointed out in one of these recent videos, it takes a while to do a load of laundry. Not just to wash it, but to get it dry. And based on the photos and on the account from the flatmate, when that laundry was dry, it was dumped in a pile on Maddie's bed. Jen didn't notice. She didn't question any of these things. Either she went upstairs and she knows full well, because she went upstairs, that there was no sign of what happened to Maddie up there, which makes her a bad parent still, because she's lying and she's protecting this guy instead of speaking up for her child. Or the alternative is that she never went upstairs, even though that is one of the last places that her daughter was, in her apartment. Your child is missing. Wouldn't you turn the whole house upside down, looking for clues to figure out what the heck happened?
I think he killed her.
How? You mentioned drugged her, you mentioned other things. Explain your reasoning behind those assumptions and we'll move forward day by day.
So he had access to benzos and I think Lunesta.
What are those? I'm not familiar with that.
Benzodiazepines are anxiety medications which relax you and can make you sleepy.
Okay.
And Lunesta, I think, is a sleeping medication, like for insomnia. So I don't know if it's possible he gave her something and she was drugged. In those photos that you showed me where you're saying she's dead, maybe she was drugged. But if she is dead and it was done upstairs, I could just only imagine that he choked her. I don't know how else you would kill someone and not leave a mess.
I've gone into this in heaps of detail in other videos, but how cold? Can you seriously imagine any decent parent coming out with all that? She's talking about her child, but the way she's saying it is like someone who's watching an episode of CSI and predicting what actually happened. Someone with no emotional connection to the victim. Again, she emphasises that there was no mess. How does she know? And how can she be so calm about the possibility of him drugging her daughter? Is it because it's just normal? This is not the way a normal caring parent would speak.
How do you think he got her out?
I have no idea, because roommates come in and out of the house at any given point in the morning and we don't know their schedules. They can come in at any time. You guys showed me a picture, I think, of him or her in the car at 7:30 in the morning. My roommate left the house. She's the one who leaves the earliest. She left at 7:45. So like, what if he had waited a little longer? She would have caught him with carrying a body out of the house. How did he do that without being caught or seen?
Again, so cold. And she's talking in a way like it's not Maddie that she's talking about. But what I find interesting is while she's talking about the flatmate and saying that essentially had Stefan been a bit later, the flatmate would have caught him carrying the body, and then she pauses and then says a body out of the house. The body is being specific. She is referring right there to Maddie's body. She knew that Maddie was deceased. And then she changes it to a body because she needs to distance herself from what has occurred. I really don't understand why this woman has not been arrested. This is not the words of a caring parent. This is the words of someone who, at the very least, helped this guy to cover up for his crime. Your child is missing and you're quite happy to refer to your child as the body. And then correct yourself, make it a body. So you can distance yourself from the fact that your child is deceased and you know about it.
What do you think he was doing on all these suspicious times? He's roaming 192. What do you think? Knowing what you know now we can play. You know she's dead. You know that we've given you information. What do you think, knowing what you know, he was doing on 192? He was doing here. He was doing here. He was doing in Northport. What do you think?
So him leaving early in the morning and driving around aimlessly somewhere. I feel like he stashed the body at that time. When he came back and then left again. But see, it's daytime. Like, how could you move a body or move something in daytime and not be seen? But like, I feel like he went back to check to make sure he did a good job, or to move the body again. I don't know.
The human brain doesn't go to the places that her brain went to there. When your child is missing, if you are not involved, your brain just physically cannot go to the places that she is going there. Stashed a body? Went back and moved the body? She slips up a few times and goes back to referring to Maddie as the body. The is not being general. The is the body, this specific body that we are talking about. A body could be any body. The body is the body that we are currently discussing. And yet she can go there in her mind. She can refer to Maddie as the body. The fact that she doesn't use Maddie's name is also a separation technique. She's distancing herself from Maddie. She's distancing herself from the fact that Maddie is no longer alive. But her words, her language is giving her away. This is not the way that any mother should be speaking while their child is missing. This is, again, an epic fail for Jenn.
192 seems to me like the easiest place he could have dumped her, or like figured out where to put her. Unless she was in my trunk the whole time and he went to Northport.
The trunk of your car?
Yeah.
Didn't you drive your car at some point?
I
Did you
did.
guys sit in your car at some point?
I did. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I would have probably smelled something, but I didn't.
Even before we consider the fact that a mother is referring to her child being stashed in the boot of her own car, quite calmly, mind you, the fact that she then says, I would have smelt her, why is she not in the corner of that couch in a fetal position? I would never expect these words to come out of a mother's mouth, not while their child is missing. Even if it hadn't been her who came up with the notion of Maddie being in the boot of the car, let's say the detective came up with that notion. The thought of that, the thought of actually being in your car while your child was deceased in the boot, it should be enough to send any parent off completely. There's no body language here at all that demonstrates any distress over the thought of Maddie being in the boot of her car while she was sitting in her car. There's nothing here that indicates any distress over her daughter.
So I'm just trying to think, like, did he stash a body in Northport? No, I don't think so. He was probably hiding something or destroying something. So I guess 192 would probably be the most important right now.
It's still more of the same. Cold and completely unaffected.
Jennifer, where do you think he took her?
If I were him and I had to stash a body, but I would never do this. My mind would say to go to Lake Toho. There's a lot of woods there, there's a lot of gators. I don't want to think about though.
I'm going to give you my speculation, which is actually exactly what the plan was when you consider that he got a flat tyre, so the plan didn't happen. But yeah, I'm going to give you my thoughts on what he was going to do. Not that I would ever plan anything like that, but here is precisely how you would get rid of a body. So cold. So not what you would expect to hear from a parent.
I think I only asked him if he took her to school. When I called him and told him to come to the office, I asked him, like, you dropped her off at school, right? Because she never made it. And he said, yeah. And I was like, she never made it. Where did you drop her off?
Can we just acknowledge that that part of the narrative didn't exist until after, I believe it was Myra Tagler, asked her, didn't you ask him what he did, where he went, why Maddie is missing? You know, that they totally nailed her in a previous interview over just accepting everything that Stefan told her. So now, only now, is she introducing this notion of that she asked Stefan, you did drop her off, didn't you? I would have had more to say than that. I would have been demanding he take me exactly to the spot where he dropped her off. And I would be demanding to know what the truth was. She knows the guy is a liar. She's seen so many signs of him being a liar. She knows that he factory reset his phone. And yet, she's happy to just accept him saying, yeah, I dropped her off here. Okay, that's cool, never mind, she's missing, but we're not going to look at you. I wouldn't blame you. I'm not going to go hard on you because my daughter is missing and you were the last person to see her.
You guys sat in your car Tuesday night when I was out there. I was out there at least 4 hours. Just you two in that car.
Yeah.
You can't tell me you guys did not have any conversations about this. There's no way. A reasonable person would have been questioning him. You were the last person with her. What the hell happened this morning? You never did that in that car.
Okay, so he just said exactly what I said. It's just not normal to simply accept that this guy who you know is a liar, this guy who has done several suspicious things that day, including having left quite early that morning, it's not normal to just be like, yeah, I'm not going to question him anymore. I've questioned him once. If you were really concerned over your child being missing, you would keep going back to that question. Just in case there's a little bit of missed information. Now, are you sure that you dropped her off in that spot? Are you sure you didn't see any cars around at the time? Are you sure that she was okay when you dropped her off? Are you telling me the truth? Or did something happen? How can I know that you are telling me the truth when my child is missing? None of that. He is so right about her.
I remember being on my phone. He was on my phone for a little bit. I know I was medicated. And I was just zoning out. I wasn't thinking anything of anything. I never asked him. Just asking him that one time to me was, if he took her to school, that was enough answer for me. I don't know, I just wanted to think, not think the worst, I guess. I don't know.
First of all, she didn't ask him questions because she didn't want to think the worst of him. Hello, your daughter is missing. Who cares if you think the worst of him? That should be the furthest thing from your mind. And she's basically claiming here that she was just spacing out and wasn't really thinking about anything. That's not normal for a parent whose child is missing. Her head should have been filled with thoughts of different scenarios, wanting to figure out where the heck her daughter is, what happened, wanting to question Stefan for the umpteenth time about when he dropped her off, what time he dropped her off. All those questions. But apparently, no, none of that occurred to Jen. She was just happy there, just spaced out, not even thinking about her daughter by the sounds of it.
Do you recall what Madeline was wearing?
No.
Now, the last time I said this, there were a few people who did disagree with me. I still stand by what I originally said here, and that is, I would expect that the last time you saw your daughter, that you would know what she was wearing. That the last time you were with your daughter would be indelibly etched in your mind. That you would be able to actually picture those moments that you had with her. barring that, Jenn supposedly straightened up the next day, but also she left Maddie's clothes lying on the floor in the bathroom, meaning that there should be other cues that allow her to remember, even if at first she's having trouble remembering. There's other cues that she can tap into to help her remember. I can't quite remember. Oh, that's right. I saw her pyjamas, this particular pair of pyjamas, on the bathroom floor. I walked around them for 2 days before the dog squad came and took them because they wanted more items for scent. But she's got nothing. It just doesn't seem normal to me.
All right, now, Madeline, does she lay out her clothes for school the next day, or is that something she gets in the morning, makes a game time decision like my kid?
Typically, it is a game time decision morning of.
Okay. What about this specific evening? Do you remember anything about it?
Yes. This evening, we had, I had already discussed prior to Stefan coming to visit that he was going to help me take Maddie to school that day. So because I knew that that was what was going to happen that night, I had asked Maddie, pick out your clothes, have everything ready, have your backpack ready, your water bottle, everything you need ready, so that way you could just grab your stuff and head out. It won't be too much of a hassle in the morning. And so she did. She picked out her clothing. I asked her what she was wearing, and she told me what she had picked out. I said, okay, fine.
All right, so she picks it out, but does she physically take it out of somewhere, wherever she stores her clothes, and put it somewhere?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if she took that clothes upstairs with her or anything like that.
All right. So as far you didn't see them in your room, and did you have the opportunity to kind of see her cubby part of the living room to see if she had put them on her bed or anything like that?
I hadn't seen them.
So this, in case you hadn't figured out, is the derivative use interview now. Now, we're supposed to believe here that she actually did do a bit of responsible parenting here, encouraging Maddie to get her outfit out the night before and lay it out, and to get her drink bottle ready and all these other things. But she didn't actually check to see if Maddie had done so. She didn't actually follow up and ask her if she'd done so. She just apparently told her to do so. And I've said this before. She supposedly did this in this mysteriously stretchy half-hour period of time. What I mean by stretchy period of time, we looked at this in another video, and I think I counted 7 different versions of what occurred during that half-hour period of time on the Sunday night. My speculation is that Jenn never saw Maddie on the Sunday night. I also find it interesting that on one hand she claims that she had said before, she gives an impression, she doesn't say outright, but she gives an impression that she'd said earlier in the day for Maddie to get organised. In another video she claims that she told Maddie that evening after she got home. So the fact that she can't even pin down a time in terms of when she told Maddie to prepare herself for the following day, and the fact that we know Maddie always wore the same sort of things to school, so she really didn't need to be doing that because she could have just grabbed her clothes anyway and been ready. Maddie normally dressed herself of a morning, according to Jenn, while Jenn made breakfast for Maddie and took the dog for a walk. These are things that Maddie was normally responsible for anyway. So I actually don't believe what she's saying here. There's too many things that point to the fact that this is a made-up story. Jenn attempting to sound like she did the things that she believes a responsible parent would do.
Does Madeline have like a water bottle or a hydro flask or whatever the kids call it that she likes to sleep with and bring up bring up or bring wherever she's sleeping?
Typically not. That stays downstairs in her backpack, and then she'll clean it in the morning and then fill it back up and just leave it in her backpack. That typically stays in the backpack.
Okay.
Jen lied about that. I actually spoke about this in another video. So we know that Maddie didn't do any morning preparation on the Monday morning. We also know there's no drink bottle in Maddie's backpack in any of the images that were made available via FOIA. We do know that there were 2 drink bottles sitting out in the kitchen in direct view from Jen's room, so that the moment Jen walked out of her bedroom, they would have been the first thing that she spotted sitting in the kitchen. I believe one of those drink bottles was Maddie's drink bottle. They looked like they were matching drink bottles, just different colours. Makes sense to me. Why would the flatmates have matching drink bottles sitting side by side? Maybe the flatmate with the son, but I don't think so. Because they didn't look, one of them was pink, one of them was black, maybe, but it just doesn't make sense to me, because it seems like those other flatmates kept all their stuff upstairs. Logically, that was Maddie's drink bottle sitting out there in clear view. Why did she lie? She lied because she needs to maintain the impression that what she said is true, that she got Maddie to get herself organised that morning. And she's already said about filling up, you know, doing all this stuff and getting herself organised. She can't admit that Maddie's drink bottle was sitting out in the living room or the kitchen area the whole time, because then she would be admitting that she realised something was wrong. This is a person who is much more interested in lying to protect Stefan and herself than in getting justice for her daughter.
Favorite stuffed animal or stuffed animals? Anything that always goes with her wherever she's sleeping?
She does have a few stuffies and blankies. Did I see any that day?
Yeah, specifically, did you see if she brought any of that stuff upstairs with her?
No, I didn't see any of that stuff upstairs.
Now,
Sorry, Jen, you didn't see any of that stuff upstairs? Because you said you never went upstairs. But by saying you never saw any of that stuff upstairs, you are essentially saying that you were upstairs at some point in time, but you didn't see any of that stuff when you were upstairs. That's presumably why you know that there was no mess. Again, lying in a derivative use interview, mind you, or maybe this is the truth. Truth is, she did go upstairs. I believe that she did, because she's pretty certain there was no evidence, no mess up there. And now she's telling us that there were no stuffies up there either. She lied to protect Stefan. And she knows there were no stuffies up there because they were all piled up on Maddie's bed after being brought back down.
Now, if your daughter had been awake, would she come in and say goodbye to you before school or not? Just let you sleep?
I would have hoped she would have come by and say goodbye to me. I can't remember if this is one of the first times that Stefan actually took her to school, so I would have hoped she would have said good night, but I'm not sure.
And yeah, I've covered that in another video also. She would think, but she doesn't know. Well, I think what he was trying to hint at here, trying to prompt Jenn into admitting that Maddie should have gone into her bedroom, Jenn's bedroom, before leaving for school. Because Maddie should have gone in there so she could brush her teeth, brush her hair, do her makeup, and get her medications. That's plenty of time for Jenn to wake up and for Maddie to say good morning. This was very skillfully done in terms of questioning, because she's essentially admitted that that didn't occur. But she has to edge around it, because she can't admit it too readily, because she's also admitting that she knows that Maddie never came into her bedroom at all that morning, meaning that she knew from the get-go that something wasn't right, whether or not she knew that Maddie was deceased. She knew something went wrong. She also slipped up, and I've said this before, but I think this is important, and anyone who didn't hear it last time probably would like to hear this. When she repeated, the question was if Maddie had said good morning to her. And she'd said, I would have thought she would say good morning to me. But then, at the end of all that, she says, quite quietly, I would have thought she would have said good night to me. How does good night come into that? Again, I've said this countless times, I don't believe Jenn ever saw Maddie on the Sunday night. This woman doesn't have a maternal bone in her body. Why didn't she see Maddie on Sunday night? Supposedly, Stefan came to stay with her because she needed more time with Maddie. She didn't want Maddie staying at Yolanda's and her not seeing Maddie all through the week. She could have got up in the morning to take Maddie to school, but she was too lazy. She claims that she saw Maddie on the Sunday night after she got home from work. But none of the things she says in relation to that ring true. And now she's saying, I would have thought she would have said good night to me. This woman cares nothing, or cared nothing, for her daughter.
And I had asked him how the morning went, how was Maddie, and he let me know that this morning went great. We made great time. She got busy super quick. He was going to take her to McDonald's for breakfast, but she changed her mind. All she wanted to do was sleep in the car, so he let her sleep. He took her to school and dropped her off, or he said he dropped her off, and...
Now, we never once hear Jenn repeat Stefan's Danish story. And I think the reason for that is because that addition to the narrative occurred after Jenn and Stefan were separated, and they never got a chance to share that addition to the story. But the point here is apparently Jenn was quite happy for her daughter to go to school without any breakfast. She's not saying anything here about the fact that Maddie would have gone to school without breakfast, would have gone to school hungry. She's quite accepting of, she didn't want Macca's, so he just dropped her off. She never once raises the issue of Maddie having not had any breakfast. Which leads to this. Supposedly, the last time anyone saw your daughter was when she was dropped off to go to school. Before she was dropped off, she refused breakfast. She wasn't hungry. She didn't want breakfast. this is a child who, according to Jenn, always has breakfast. Wouldn't you be worrying about whether or not your child has been given anything to eat? Wouldn't you be saying, you know, when police come at 7 o'clock at night and you know that she never went to school, wouldn't you be voicing your concerns that I don't know if she's had anything to eat all day? She didn't have breakfast. She didn't have any food in her bag with her. I don't know where she is, and I don't know when the last time is that she ate. But it's not a concern for Jenn. It's not even a concern for Jenn that Stefan dropped Maddie off at school without her having any breakfast. In fact, she's so unconcerned about the fact that despite having a blood appointment, which sounds like it was pretty much just over the road from the school, when she was in the car park before that blood appointment, she apparently had a conversation with Stefan, which is when he told her that Maddie went to school not having had any breakfast. Now, I would have expected any parent, any concerned parent, any responsible parent, having been just told that their child has gone to school without breakfast, they refuse breakfast, and knowing that your child has breakfast every other day of the week, well, you didn't have any more commitments for the rest of the day. You were only going to go home and sit around until 2:30 and come back to the school. So why not, when your blood work appointment ended, go to the local bakery and buy a muffin and drop it off at the school for your daughter to make sure she's got something to eat? But apparently that wasn't a concern for Jenn. She wasn't worried about whether or not her daughter had eaten.
When you leave to go pick Madeline up at 2:30, do you take her phone with you?
I do.
And how is it that you come to get her phone to go with you?
At some point in the morning, I was organizing and putting things away, and I walked into her bedroom and I saw her phone on her dresser. And I just assumed, oh, she must have left it here while getting dressed and forgot it.
Organising and putting things away. Yep, Jenn is the mother of the year, isn't she? Her daughter's at school and she spends the day making the house look so presentable for her daughter, putting things away, grabbing her daughter's laundry and washing it rather than having it just lying on the floor, re-washing all the clean laundry that was in the laundry basket that had all the dirty laundry mixed in with it, folding the laundry, putting it away, all those things that she did during the day. BS. As if any of us buy this story about organising, putting things away. We've seen the photos of the apartment. We know she did nothing. Surely if you were organising things and putting things away and you were tripping over clothes, wouldn't that be the first thing that you dealt with?
All right. So you just started this job at Disney Coronado Springs like a week or two earlier, is that right?
Yes.
And your sister and other family members would help with Maddie getting to school because of your job?
Yes, my mom and my sister, yes.
Okay. Why is it that now Stefan on February 26th is coming up to help as opposed to any of your family members helping getting Madeline to school?
I had asked for him to come and help me because I think I was working a lot of night shifts or like really late shifts, and I just wanted the opportunity to see Maddie, like, because I wanted to spend more time with my daughter throughout the week while I was working, versus had she had stayed at my mom's, I wouldn't have seen her all week.
Okay.
So that was just me wanting to see her and spend time with her.
Well, how did that go for you, Jen? Oh, that's right. You had the day off on Monday. You knew that you also had the Tuesday off. You didn't have to go back to work till Wednesday. You wanted to see more of your daughter and spend time with her. But you didn't get out of bed to take her to school on the Monday morning. In fact, you didn't even say good morning to her Monday morning. You didn't even get out of bed to just say good morning and make sure that she was ready for school before Stephen took her to school. But you wanted to spend more time with your daughter. When were you going to do that?
Did she ever have sleepovers? Like have friends come over and sleep over?
Slumber parties, no.
Did she ever go and attend any?
No.
Is there any particular reason? I mean, she's a 12-year-old girl on the cusp of being 13.
Yeah, I've been very uncomfortable with sleepovers just because I know what can happen. Anything can happen in a sleepover.
Well, then you can be the host house like we kind of were. You never hosted any sleepovers for her friends?
For her friends, no.
Did she ask about it?
Yeah, she did ask.
Was it probably a source of contention or arguments?
It was, I guess what was the source of argument is her and she wanted to really sleep over her best friend's house, and I just kept saying no, you never know what can happen. I don't know the dad, I don't know the brother, I don't know anybody there. Like I don't know what can happen to you. So, just afraid of her getting assaulted.
She was afraid of her getting assaulted, so she wouldn't allow her to have a sleepover with her best friend, who had her own bedroom, meaning that the girls would have had their privacy. They could have been in that bedroom on their own without any male interference. But Jen would much rather just send Maddie upstairs to have a sleepover with a 37-year-old man instead.
Did Madeline ever have like effects from taking the hydroxyzine in the morning? Like still be kind of sluggish?
Yes.
How often would that occur? Was that like every morning or not every morning?
Not every morning. If we happen to give her medication later than normal than routine, that would happen. But
Okay. And were there ever any instances where she had taken too much of the medicine? Perhaps you and Stefan had given her medicine, not knowing that the other person had?
yes, that's happened once
How many?
before.
Just once or more?
I want to say once.
Okay. Were you taking medicinal marijuana in pill form at any point, or THC?
Yes.
And what do those pills or tablets or capsules look like?
They're purple capsules.
Did you ever suspect or confront Stefan about giving those medications to Madeline?
No.
So during this incident where Madeline had been double dosed with hydroxyzine, do you recall any conversation you had with Stefan and inquiring as to whether or not he had accidentally given her any of your THC?
That hadn't occurred to me. I had asked him the day that the one morning Maddie wouldn't wake up and get ready for school, and she was just out of it. I assumed it was medication related. But I didn't realize, I'm like, did this one medication hit her too hard because we gave it to her late? I called poison control. I needed to see what would happen. Because at this point, I think I had gotten Stefan to admit that he gave her a second dose of the sleeping meds as well, because he thought I had given it to her in the first place.
Okay.
But that was with hydroxyzine. I didn't know anything about THC, the marijuana.
I'm just asking you.
Oh. Okay.
I'm asking if you remember having that conversation, because there is a conversation on your phone about you were relaying that Madeline said that she suspected that it was different bigger pills, and you relayed that to Stefan and had a conversation with him. And if you don't remember it because it was a year ago, that's fine.
First of all, just calling poison control when you can't wake your daughter up because you believe that she's overdosed on sleeping medications, as opposed to calling an ambulance or getting her in the car and taking her to the emergency room? Well, I'm sorry, but every time I hear her say that, it does my head in. She was so unconcerned about the effects of the medications that Maddie was having. But let's talk about giving someone a second chance when they've drugged your child to the extent that your child is essentially comatose. You can't wake her up. And yet she was still allowing him to be with Maddie unsupervised. He's proved he can't be trusted around Maddie. When someone does something like that, even if it is accidental, they've proven they cannot be relied upon. And yet she was happy to leave Maddie in his care on that Sunday night. He supposedly got there at 9:15. Jenn didn't get home for another nearly 2 hours after that. She was happy for Maddie to be getting ready for bed and taking her medications. And she didn't say it outright, but essentially under Stefan's supervision, despite this past event. He's proved himself unreliable, and yet she's happy for Maddie to share a bed with him, where Jenn has no control over anything that's going on there. She really never gave a damn about her daughter.
In December of 2022, kind of when the breakup happens, prior to that, what were the sleeping arrangements in your home? Was he sleeping in your bedroom as a couple?
Yes.
So who's in bedroom number 4, if anybody?
I think that room remained empty for a while. For a little bit, there was another roommate there, but it remained empty for the most part.
And were your female roommates already there in 2 and 3?
Yes.
Why doesn't Madeline have that bedroom 4?
I wanted her to have bedroom 4, but my dad really wanted rent. That whole unit that I live in is owned by my father.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Do you pay your father anything to live there, or does he just handle the collecting the rent from your rentees, lessees, whatever they are?
I pay him rent as well.
Okay. What do you pay for the rent?
My portion of the rent was $400 a month.
Right.
Okay, let's just for one moment imagine that she is actually telling the truth, and that Maddie's grandfather, who utterly doted on her and thought the world of her, would rather have rent money for that empty room than allow Maddie to have her own room. Wouldn't allow Maddie to use that room while they were trying to find a new tenant for that room. Because personally, I think that Juan would have wanted Maddie to have had her own bedroom. So let's just put that aside for a moment. Jenn was only paying $400 a month in rent. That was 2/3 of what the other flatmates were being charged. One of them was being charged more than $600, I believe. Either way, if she was given a discount for one room, I would imagine that it would have been possible to negotiate a decent price for 2 rooms. Maybe she could have given up Botox and instead paid for a room for Maddie, if that's what the issue is here. If it's true that one would rather leave that room empty while he waited for another flatmate to come along that he could charge rent from. That he would rather have that extra $600 a month than see his granddaughter that he doted on have her own room. I don't buy it. And there was another option too. They had this makeshift bedroom for Maddie. Well, here's the thing. Most parents just automatically, it's in their DNA. They put their children ahead of themselves. So my question is this. Why is it that Jenn didn't take that makeshift bedroom for herself and allow Maddie to have the master bedroom if it's true that she couldn't afford to pay rent for a second bedroom? Because that's what a decent parent would do. Allow their teenage daughter to have her own space, a room with a door that she could shut, to keep out people like Stearns.
And once he moved up to bedroom 4, were there instances where Madeline would sleep alone upstairs with him?
I'm gonna say
I want you to think carefully before you answer, because obviously we've gone through your phone and we've seen all the conversations that you've had with Stefan. So it's clear that that's occurring. So I'm giving you the chance to answer the question.
yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how many times it's happened.
Okay. Why are you allowing that to occur?
I saw Stefan as someone that I completely trusted with my life, my child's life. I thought he had cared for her as a father would. He had been in her life for more than half of it, playing the father role. I thought he cared for her the way I did.
You know, no matter what excuses she can try to come up with, at the end of the day, a decent parent does not send their preteen daughter upstairs, or teen, for one night, upstairs to sleep unattended in a bed with a grown-ass male. A 37-year-old man who was no relation to her whatsoever. A man who you've admitted you don't trust. A man who you know he's overdrugged your daughter in the past. A man who you know that in his younger years had an inappropriate relationship with a girl who was only 1 year older than Maddie when that relationship began. And yet you make excuses. Jenn knew what she was doing was wrong, but she didn't care because it allowed her to have her room all to herself. It allowed her good night's sleep. It excused her from any obligations with Stefan in terms of partnerships. Because I believe that even when her and Stefan were together, Jenn was sacrificing Maddie so that she didn't have to worry about performing. None of this was ever about Maddie. None of this was ever about trusting Stefan. This was about Jenn putting her own needs ahead of everybody else.
Maddie had the opportunity to go visit her biological father in the fall out in Texas. Is that a yes?
Yes.
All right. Do you remember texting the biological father, "Hope nobody touches Maddie or tries shit or films her under the bathroom"? You remember sending that text?
No.
Orange County Sheriff's Office back in February?
No.
Because that seems like a very oddly specific thing to text the father. So you didn't know anything about what was going on filming underneath bathroom doors?
No idea. I don't know why I would have texted that.
Now, I did a bit of research, and there was actually a incident around that time, which was, as Jenn described it, a steward on one of the flights in and out of Texas who had actually done that with his phone. So on the surface, you could accept that Jenn was concerned over that. But if she genuinely felt that that could happen on the aircraft, wouldn't you encourage, now I don't know the flight times between Florida and Texas, but wouldn't you either, if you were that concerned, wouldn't you either fly there with your daughter and then return, or in Australia, if children are flying without a parent, they can have like an airline person supervise them, travel with them. Or you could encourage Maddie not to use the bathroom while she was on the plane, and yet unless she really had to. And you could explain the things to be careful of. I can understand a parent being concerned having heard something like that. But it just seems a heck of a coincidence that this is at the forefront of her mind when we know what was going on with Stefan and the flatmate, and him actually filming the flatmate under the bathroom door. So we can take this either way. I'm not convinced that it's a sign of her being a concerned parent. I think, especially when you hear about her saying stuff like, I learned not to trust the man, I think it's a case of her being far too aware of just how easily predators can gain access to 12-year-old girls.
Now, June 16th of last year at 9:30 p.m. and 27 seconds, you texted Stefan this: Maddie's no longer sleeping with me. I can't risk it. What does that mean?
I have no idea.
Note the long pause before saying, I have no idea, really, really quietly. She knows full well what that is all about, but clearly it's not something that she can share with the detectives.
How often was Maddie sleeping with you?
Often, all the time.
Well, you keep on saying often versus all the time. Was it 100% of the time or not 100% of the time?
If she wasn't with my mom and she was with me, then yeah, she was sleeping with me.
Okay. And if she's at mom, she's 100% of the time sleeping with mom?
With
Your mom?
With my mom, or she does have her own room, I guess. Like there's another spare room she could use, but for the most part, she prefers to sleep with my mom.
You know, I really hope that they do decide to go after Jenn and that they go and interview members of her family. Because it's an interesting thing that she has said there. On one hand, she says Maddie sleeps with me all the time at my place. Then asked about Yolanda's place, she admits that Maddie had her own room at Yolanda's. And then she quickly changes it to, there's a room that she could use, but she preferred to sleep with my mother. I think we just had a bit of leakage there, and she was admitting that at Yolanda's place, Maddie had her own bedroom. Maybe there were times when she snuggled with her grandmother. Maybe when she was sad and she needed someone to comfort her. But it sounds like Maddie had her own bedroom at Yolanda's house. And then Jenn quickly tries to brush over it. Why lie so much about your own daughter? Why not just be upfront and tell the truth?
Okay, did you ever go into the room after you discovered that she was missing? Did you go upstairs to that bedroom? No.
One of two things was happening there, neither of which put Jenn in a good light as a parent. The first scenario, which is what I believe is the case, is that she was lying. Why do I think she was lying? Because when she answers no, it is pretty much inaudible. We know that one of Jenn's things, we know that when Jenn goes really, really quiet, that it's because either she is lying or she's giving an answer that she doesn't want to give because it's incriminating. Now, the flip side of that, if Jenn wasn't lying, why not go up to that room and check it out when your daughter is missing and look for clues to figure out why the heck your daughter is missing? Like I said before, I would expect any normal parent to turn the house upside down trying to look for clues to figure out what the heck happened and where did their daughter get to.
Okay. Now, the purpose of you telling or having Maddie sleep with Stefan upstairs is because you told me before that you needed a good night's sleep. If you needed this kind of sleep previously to when Stefan wasn't there, what would happen?
You mean if Stefan wasn't there and I needed this good night's sleep? It depends. If I had missed my meds the way I missed them that night and I wasn't feeling, or I was feeling just how I was feeling, I'm not sure if I would have had her sleep, have her sleep with me on the other side of the bed, or if I would have sent her upstairs to the guest room. But she sleeps like a monkey. She sleeps, she rolls, she'll start on one end of the bed and end up on top of me by the end of the night, and she's a gymnast, I guess. But
have you ever sent her upstairs to sleep?
No, not for any of these reasons.
Have you ever sent her upstairs to sleep by herself?
Alone? No.
Okay.
Totally nailed her ass to the wall there. She's now admitting that if she needed a good night's sleep and it was just her and Maddie, that she still would have had Maddie in the bed with her. Meaning that this story of sending Maddie upstairs with Stefan is a lie. Because she could still manage her good night's sleep sharing the bed with Maddie. She's basically shown her true colours here. She was allowing it to happen because in her words, when it comes to Stefan, I let him do what he wants, or I let him do what he does. She was happy to hand Maddie over to Stefan because it kept Stefan around for her. She didn't send Maddie upstairs because she needed a good night's sleep. There's no history of her needing to do that before. She's never sent Maddie upstairs on her own. She only did so because Stefan was there. Pure selfishness and pure lies from way to go. I don't think I even need to say what the conclusion is in terms of Jenn, the parent. Because, honestly, I've now done 3 quite lengthy videos going through all Jenn's interviews, just looking for one little skerrick one little glimpse of decency in this woman. And the things where you at first think, okay, yep, that sounds like something that you would expect from a responsible, caring parent. When you really start to break it down, you realise that it's utter BS. Jenn Soto never deserved to be called a mother. And I truly hope that she never ever has the opportunity to call herself that again. So on that note, I'm going to finish there. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. Also, please hit the like button and leave a comment below. I do enjoy reading all your comments. I do my best to keep up with them. As I mentioned in, I think yesterday, or not yesterday, the previous one of these videos, there is a slight obstacle at the moment in that my pup thinks that my fingers are chew toys. So it is slowing me down in terms of keeping up with answering people's comments. But I'm doing my best to catch up. I do read all your comments and I do my best to answer as many as I can. And I appreciate everyone's comments. I appreciate everyone's support. So on that note, thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.